Lung cancer is the leading cancer killer in both men and women in the U.S. The Trek Across Maine raises funds for the American Lung Association to defeat lung cancer, to improve the air we breathe, and so much more. This June, thousands of cyclists and volunteers will participate in the Trek Across Maine. Why will you ride?
Why do I ride? I ride because it's on Father's Day weekend and I lost my father to a lung disease.
Why do I ride? I ride because my wife's father passed away of lung cancer at the age of 57. I ride because her oldest son has asthma. I ride because I lost my mother at the age of 76. And I ride because my wife lost her aunt just this last July to lung cancer.
Why do I ride? I ride because I like the challenge.
Why do I ride? I ride because I like to raise money for a wonderful cause.
Hi there, everybody. I'm Fred Thomas, and you are watching All Things Bike. And today we are speaking with Kim Chamard, Development Manager at Trek Across Maine. Kim, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming back. And you were among the first guests, and here you are again. And it means that summer has arrived. If we're talking about the Trek Across Maine, summer is here, and it's an exciting edition of the Trek, right? It's the 35th edition.
It is, yes.
Remind us what the mission of the Trek Across Maine is.
Yeah, so the Trek Across Maine is a fundraising cycling event for the American Lung Association. So we are raising money to save lives by improving lung health and preventing lung disease. And as you mentioned, it is our 35th anniversary this year. The other really exciting thing about the Trek in particular for the American Lung Association is we are the largest fundraising event in the nation for the Lung Association. So we're so proud to say, you know, here in the state of Maine, the event that we've been doing raises the most money in the country for the Lung Association. So we're doing things right, and the people in Maine and the people that ride with us are so generous and so passionate. It's just really amazing.
I know it is. It's 35 years. People keep turning up.
They do.
But you know, the date is the same. Let's get it right out there.
It is.
The date is the same, but the route is different. So, but first, the date. When?
Yep, so it is Father's Day weekend every year. That has remained consistent throughout the 35-year history. So this year the dates are June 14th through the 16th. And the route is brand new this year, as you had mentioned. So that is the really exciting thing that's happening for us for the 35th anniversary.
That's right. And before we dive into the routes, how and where do we register? Because there's a deadline for registration. There
is. So the website is trekacrossmaine.org. Tons more information about the ride there, information about the different route options that we offer, but that is where people can go online to register, both to cycle or to volunteer or to make a donation if they're simply looking to support someone in their ride. So trekacrossmaine.org is the website, and the registration deadline for cyclists is May 20th, so coming up in just a couple of weeks.
Right. Well, there's still plenty of time.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah. So there's some new stuff going on. There are new routes. I mean, tell us why the organization decided to do some new routes this year.
Yeah. So we, for the past 34 years, have generally been riding the same route from the mountains to the sea.
Where it was from Bethel to
So
Belfast,
we started at Sunday River and made our way across the state with stops in Farmington and Waterville along the way. We had a few different finish line areas along the coast, but the past number of years we've been finishing in Belfast. So, we had just been hearing some feedback over the years that as much as people loved the ride and loved what we did, since the ride was sort of unchanging, people were looking for something fresh, something that still felt like Maine, still felt like the Trek, but maybe gave them something a little fresh and new to experience. We're also looking to continue to grow the event. So the fact that we are moving to more locations that are a little bit closer to where our demographic of cyclists is, and that's a little bit more logistically simple for folks who are perhaps coming from out of state, we're hoping that will really increase our numbers moving forward so we can continue to raise as much money as we can.
Right. So the whole thing has moved a little bit south.
Yes.
It starts in Brunswick rather than up in Bethel.
Yes.
And talk about the next generation of participants. I mean, the people who have been doing it for 35 years.
Absolutely.
That's the previous generation. Who is the future?
Well, we're really looking to, of course, retain the folks that have ridden with us for so long. They're a part of our family, and we hope they continue to ride for many years to come. But also looking to bring in that younger, new generation of cyclists that you mentioned, and more families and people who are going to help us to continue this tradition for, another 35 years or so as we continue to ride. So with the move to Brunswick, as you mentioned, our start line is going to be in Brunswick this year. The logistical plans for folks it's just a little bit simpler for
Sure.
people to get there. It's more centrally located. The train comes through. So it's just a nice central spot that people can come and start their ride with us.
Yeah.
The other really great thing with the change to the route is we're going to actually be having our finish line back in the same location
That's
in
right.
Brunswick again.
Yeah.
So folks are able to come and drive their car and leave it there for the weekend, and when they've completed their ride,
Right.
they can hop in and head home. So that's sort of eliminating some of those other planning pieces that
Yeah.
perhaps were challenging for folks in the past.
Right. Well, let's sort of drill down a little bit into
Yeah.
the three options. So the
Absolutely.
first option is really the traditional
Yes.
Trek Across Maine, in the sense that it's also 108, or it's still 186
Yes.
miles. But describe that loop and talk about the minimum, the fundraising minimums and the terrain and the support.
Sure. So as you mentioned, our traditional 3-day ride option is Friday through Sunday. So the logistical piece for that is that folks will start in Brunswick, as we mentioned. They will then ride to Lewiston to Bates College.
Right.
That will be our first overnight stop. They'll stay overnight there, and then on Saturday they'll ride from Bates College to Colby College, which that has remained a consistent piece of our route. So we still have some of those
Right,
familiar elements there.
Familiar territory.
Some of those fun, exciting things that we've done. And so after staying overnight at Colby College on Saturday, then all the cyclists will then ride from Colby College back down to the Brunswick
Right.
landing, which is where we started. So the start and finish in the same location.
And the support vehicles and rest stops, it's all pretty much the same general structure. Is that right?
The structure, yes, of course, all new locations because of the new route. But the support vehicles that we have along the route, if folks find that they need to get bumped forward, the 3 rest stops per day, the medical support from Delta Ambulance, all of that has remained consistent. So the
Right.
support of the ride and the feel of it in that aspect will
Right.
remain completely the same, but we're going to get to explore brand new parts of Maine that
Sure.
we've never gotten to see before.
Yeah, that's right. So that's the first
That's
option.
the 3-day traditional
The 3-day
option,
traditional
yes.
option. The second option,
Yes, so
slightly different.
A little bit, yeah. So we then offer a 2-day option, which that means that folks will start their ride on Saturday at Colby College.
Right.
So what they'll do is ride what we call our Colby Loop, which is a little bit of a shorter distance for the day.
Right.
So they do a loop and they end up meeting up with
Right.
with all the other cyclists at the final
second
rest
day,
stop,
yeah.
and then they'll ride in all together to Colby College.
Okay,
and
right.
then for their second day, they ride with all other cyclists from Colby down to Brunswick. So that
Right.
completes their 2-day.
Right, right. And then the third option is if
Yes.
you're not a big camper and you just you only have time for one day,
Yes.
then you do the third option, which is you start in Colby.
Yes.
And then
And ride to Brunswick on Sunday. So
Right.
the 1-day option is just on Sunday, starting at Colby College and then finishing in Brunswick along with all the other cyclists that are part of the trek.
I see. So in the last day, everyone who signed up for the Trek Across Maine is going to be riding together.
Yes,
from
exactly.
Colby to Brunswick.
Exactly.
Wow. Well, describe the accommodation and at Bates and Colby and the food and what happens there.
Sure,
Is it a party
sure.
atmosphere or is it camping?
We
I
hope
don't
that
know.
it is. That's the
Okay.
plan. Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
oops, no,
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
So we do provide dorm accommodations, which
Mm-hmm.
at this point in our registration cycle have been filled up.
Right.
So there are folks that stay in the dorms with us, but still available options if people are looking to register with us. As you mentioned, camping is an option.
Okay.
People can bring a tent, pitch a tent in an area that we designate on campus, and they can tent out.
Mm-hmm.
We also do have sleeping available in the field house at each college. So that's basically bring a mat and bring a sleeping
Yeah.
bag, and you're sleeping in the field house with a bunch
Right,
of new
right.
friends that you've made as
Yeah.
you're riding along.
And do you have to bring your own food though, or is
No,
that part
all the
of
food is provided.
Okay.
So we provide breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So breakfast and dinner are in the cafeterias of the colleges once
Mm-hmm.
the ride starts. And then on Friday at Bates College, we'll have our baked potato bar, which is another traditional piece of the trek
Okay.
that we have kept consistent over
Yeah.
the years. And then at Colby College, we have pizza that is generously donated by Pizza Hut and Fielder's Choice ice cream, so that
Wow.
we'll serve that. And then on the final day, on Father's Day, on Sunday in Brunswick, we have a catered meal that all of our cyclists and volunteers can enjoy. And their friends and family members can purchase a ticket to eat with them if they'd like to do
so
that.
that's the grand event at the end of the
Absolutely.
thing. That's wow. So it is a party on wheels.
It is.
What about volunteering? The Trek apparently brings out 750 volunteers every year. And so first, how do we volunteer, and what do you volunteer for? And then try and explain why are people so loyal? I mean, it's a remarkable thing.
Yeah, well, there's no way that we could do this event without the volunteers. We have a very small staff that sort of manages the event year after year, but the work that goes into even planning throughout the year and then that weekend is just impossible without our volunteers. They're amazing. So the volunteers do anything from driving those support vehicles that we mentioned, manning those rest stops to, make those peanut butter and fluff sandwiches, to cheering at the finish line. There's a ton of logistical setup and cleanup that happens, as you can imagine, each day as you're moving an event across the state. So there are a wide range of opportunities that we need help with. And it can be for a couple of hours on one day, or someone could join us for the entire weekend, depending what their schedule looks like. We do provide housing and meals for our volunteers as well. So if they choose to work with us for more than one day, they can stay over with us and eat all the same delicious food that we have, and really just be a big part of what we're doing and supporting the cyclists as they're riding across the state.
Yeah, that's great. But I mean, they're so loyal. I mean,
they are.
Are they connected to the mission of the event somehow, or they like it because it comes through their neighborhood?
There's a lot of different stories. We do find that a lot of our volunteers are connected to a cyclist that's riding, and that may be what the big pull is they want to spend that weekend with their spouse or their dad or their friend or their coworkers or whatever it may be. So that's a huge element of it. But then we have folks that may be suffering from lung disease themselves or have a close family member that is, and they're not necessarily a cyclist, so riding 180 miles wouldn't really be the way they could support, but they can give their time. And that's just as valuable to us as we are raising money and really putting this whole event on.
Right, and making it happen seamlessly and smoothly, and because
we try as best we can.
I mean, if people keep coming back, that means you're doing something right. If the riders know where to go and they feel like they're never off the grid and that they've got the support, they'll keep on coming back. Well, what are some tips for someone who's thinking about doing it?
Thinking about riding.
What should they know in terms of gear and preparation?
Yeah, the biggest thing we hear is people are really nervous about, oh gosh, I don't know if I could ride 60 miles a day, which is, on average, split out, fairly evenly across the weekend. And we tell people to really think of it in 20-mile increments. We have our rest stops that we had mentioned that are approximately every 20 miles as they're riding. So we say, if you can do some training, if you can get that saddle time and seat time, that's really the biggest thing. And just think of it in those 20-mile increments. And then you can have a break, you can get a snack, you can stretch as much as you need to. So that's really how we tell people to look at it. It's that mental piece of it. Don't think about the full 180 miles. Think about 20 miles at a time.
And also and make sure the bike is set up properly.
Absolutely. And we do require bike inspections just to ensure that people are riding safe equipment, and hopefully they'll make it all the way through the event with no mechanical issues. But we do have the support of bike shops from around the state that are there at each rest stop and each finish line. So if there is something that goes wrong with your bike and you need somebody to take a look, they're available and they can help with that.
Yeah. Well, can you elaborate on some of the other partner organizations that are involved in making the event happen?
Of course. Well, the event is presented by Charlie's Family of Dealerships in Augusta. So they are our presenting sponsor. And not only do they sponsor us, but they also have a cycling team that raises a ton of money, which is just fantastic. So we love that they have really that whole community of their employees and friends involved with us. We also work really closely with Spectrum Medical Group, and they are just wonderful in providing, again, not only a team and volunteers, but sort of some of the fun things that we do at the finish line with Instagram and hashtagging and printers and things like that. And then LL Bean is one of our large sponsors as well, and they are hosting one of our rest stops this year in Freeport, which is really exciting for the first time ever. And they provide a ton of mechanical support for us, talking about bike mechanics.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, people really are getting behind this event, and it sounds like everyone wants to keep it going. Well,
I hope so, yeah.
How come you haven't done it though? I mean,
oh gosh,
you've been with the organization for 34 years apparently, and
I myself have not. The Trek is actually older than I am.
Okay,
I've been there for 10.
I read somewhere that you've been there since its beginning, or you've been with it for a long time.
I've been there for 10 years, more if you count the time when I was in college.
Okay. Well, is this the year? Is this the year that you ride it?
You know, sometimes we think that riding might be more fun than working the event,
so,
but there's so much that goes on behind the scenes that we as the staff are sort of managing and making sure everything happens, that it's challenging for me to get away, but it's fun to spend the weekend with everybody.
No pressure, just bring that up. But tell us about what's going on behind the scenes. It's a lot of work logistically.
It is. So as I mentioned, the volunteer support we have is just unbelievable. So there are so many volunteers that manage different pieces.
But what you do.
And we as staff are there to ensure that any vendors that are coming through, deliveries, any problems the volunteers may be having, and just any of those things that may pop up during the day, those unknowns. You know, you plan as best you can, but there's always those unknowns that happen. So we're sort of on the ground making sure that we can solve any of those problems that arise, making sure things are set up and taken down as they're supposed to, and we don't leave anything behind when we move ahead.
Are there any known unknowns? Things that can happen that you...
There are things that we anticipate may happen, and then if they do, you sort of see in what situation it is, and then do what you can. You know, we always plan for weather, of course, in Maine is, you know, an unknown. So we have, gosh, I think now to plan C in place. So we've got plan A is wonderful weather, plan B is not ideal, and plan C is, okay, now what are we going to do?
But it's a rain or shine event.
It is a rain or shine event, absolutely. And, you know, we always, you know, fingers crossed for beautiful weather, but we do have the support in place and those plans in place that even if it does rain, we're going to be there, the ride will happen, and we will do whatever we can to make sure people are comfortable.
Right, and you'll have the daylight. I mean, without a doubt, you'll have solid 12 hours.
It's never snowed at the Trek, so we got that going for us.
Well, remind us when it is again, and registration deadline, and so everyone knows.
Yep, so the 35th Trek Across Maine will be taking place on Father's Day weekend. That is June 14th through the 16th. Registration is still open for both cyclists and volunteers. That will close online for cyclists on May 20th. Volunteers can still register beyond that point, but for cyclists it will be May 20th, and the best place to go for information is trekacrossmaine.org.
Wonderful. Alrighty, Kim. Well, I should do it too, and when you do it, I'll do it.
All right, it's a deal.
All right, everybody. That was Kim Chamard, the development manager at the Trek Across Maine. And you can learn more about the Trek Across Maine at their website, trekacrossmaine.org. That's all we've got time for right now. Thanks so much for watching. We'll talk to you again soon. All Things Bike is brought to you by FitWorks, Rider First Bike Fitting, Rider Matched Bike Sales. Locations in Peabody, Massachusetts, Waitsville, Vermont, and Ridgefield Park, New Jersey. And Frame and Wheel, eBay selling services for cyclists, bike shops, bike companies, and cycling-related nonprofit organizations. Time, space, cash, pick 3. And AD Bikes, the modern face of Austro-Daimler cycling and the bike company of the future. Become Bike. Become AD Bike.